Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. We're back to Freecodecamp algorithms. We have recently finished all the intermediate algorithm scripting ones. We did all 21 of these. So if you guys are interested in those, please check out my playlist. Links in the description below. Otherwise, today we're going to be starting the JavaScript algorithms and data structure projects Palindrome checker. So let's check this one out. Let's read the directions. Return true if the given string is a palindrome, otherwise return false. A palindrome is a word or sentence that is spelled the same way both forward and backward, ignoring punctuation, case, and spacing. Note, you will need to remove all non-alphanumeric characters, punctuation, spaces, and symbols, and turn everything into the same case, lower or uppercase, in order to check for palindromes. We'll pass strings with varying formats such as race car, capital race car, and race car, among others. We'll also pass strings with special symbols such as this weird stuff, this stuff, that stuff. Remember to use read as search ask. If you get stuck, write your own code. All right, let's bring this over. So hopefully you guys by now know what a palindrome is. And we got a couple of things we got to do. Let's make a little roadmap of what we got to do. So the first thing I think we got to do is strip all non-alphanumeric characters. How about that? I want to strip all non-alphanumeric characters, and I actually lied. I thought about something that we could do even before we do this. So I'm going to call this step number 2. I think the step number 1, we either got to make everything lowercase or uppercase, but I'm going to go with lowercase. So make everything lowercase. Step number 2, strip all non-alphanumeric characters. And then, assuming we have done those two, we are only dealing with lowercase alphanumeric characters. Now, by the way, that also means we stripped white spaces such as space and everything. So now we can check to see if it is a palindrome or not. So 3, check for palindrome. How about that? English was never my expertise, so sorry if that doesn't really make sense, but hopefully you guys understand what I mean. So let's go through these one by one. So now, keep in mind, this is the advanced JavaScript algorithm section. So I'm going to assume you guys know a little thing or two about JavaScript. So we won't, usually what I do is I try to tackle a problem in more than one ways. First with a very simple method, but I'll skip some of that here because I'm assuming that if you're here, you're somewhat good at JavaScript. All right, so let's try this. I want to make everything lowercase. That's very easy. So const lowercase string is just string dot to lowercase. Very simple, right? We did number 1. Now let's try number 2. Strip all non-alphanumeric characters. That's also fairly straightforward. We will say const alphanumeric. How about that? It's going to be getting from our lowercase string. What do we want to do with? We want to, this is my plan. I'm going to first split it into an array. So for example, if our string was I want to make it an array with all the characters separated like this. Like so. Why? Because it's easier in general to deal with arrays than with strings. Later, and then I will try to get rid of each of the non-alphanumeric characters, and then I will join it back into a string. So I'm going to first split it like this. There is a handy method called split. Now we give a split argument, a splitter. For example, let's say we did I.split at y. This will give you an array with E and E. So it will split this word wherever there's a Y. However, we don't want to split it at a special character. We want to split it everywhere, right? So we just pass in an empty string. That will give us every single character in a separate form. So now that we did that, let's separate, do I want to change this? How about this? We'll just chain it for now. No. We'll just chain it for now. So right after we split it, I'm going to invoke another method called filter. So let me just put a little space here just so that we have some breathing space, like so maybe. Let's see. How about That's not that pretty either. Whatever. I'm just gonna do this so that we have some space to work with. A filter is a method of an array. It takes a callback function inside. The first argument of that function is gonna be the element that we're iterating over. In our case, I'll just call it car because it's a character that we're iterating over. And the return of this function, if it's true for that character, it will remain inside our array. Otherwise, it will be excluded in the array. So what do I want to filter out? I want to make sure that we're only filtering in the alphanumeric characters, right? So there's a couple ways to do this. Here's the easy way. I'm going to make a little if condition inside this function. If car is what? Greater or equal to capital A and car is less than or equal to capital Z, return true. Remember, if it returns true, it stays in. Otherwise, if it returns false, it does not stay in, right? I'm going to return false as a catch-all case. Maybe we could even do a if else. Else if car is greater or equal to lowercase a and car is less than or equal to lowercase z, return true. Else if car is greater than, remember it's a string, so I'm gonna say greater than 0, greater or equal to, and char is less than or equal to 9, whoops, a string 9, that's very important, I think. Return true, else return false. So this is a very long and tedious way of checking to see if, why is this erroring out? Not sure. This statement can be simplified. I know it can be simplified, whatever, WebStorm. All right, so this is a very long and tedious way of checking to see and filtering out the non-alphanumeric characters. And after we have done that, now that we are dealing with only alphanumeric characters in the array, we want to join it back to a string, right? So the way that we do that is dot join. And what am I going to join it with? What's a separator? Nothing. We're going to put nothing as a separator, meaning we won't be adding anything like this or anything like that. All right, so just to show you guys that this is gonna work, let's try. Let's test it out a little bit. I'm gonna console log the result of alphanumeric to see if it first made it lowercase and then it got rid of all the non-alphanumeric characters. Let's try like this. How about that? Let's see if we get only PSD, SFH. I'm gonna run the code. I get an error because this equal sign is here for some reason. I'm gonna run it again. And we are only left with the alphanumeric character, so it works. So that's good. Now, this really bothers me right here. This is unnecessary. This is way too much. And if you guys know regular expression, which you should, there's a very easier way to simplify this. We could say if regular expressions is a way to pattern match strings. That's what we're gonna use. First, I'm gonna place a regular expression here. A regex is always surrounded by 2 forward dashes. We're gonna say if it is either in the A to Z range, or capital A to Z range, or 0 to 9 range. And with this regex, we're gonna use a built-in method of JavaScript called test. We're testing the character to see if it is one of these. Is it one of the lowercase characters? Is it one of the uppercase characters? Or is it either to 0 to 9? So that's what this is doing. Pretty simple. Then return true, otherwise return false, else return false. Or this test will give you a true or false. If it's in here, it will give you true. If character is one of these, it will return true. Otherwise, will return false. So that itself returns a Boolean, right? So we could just do this. Get this, cut it out here, return the result of this, because it's going to be either true or false. And because we only have one line in this filter, might as well get rid of this and just return this right away to clean up our code, like so. Let me put some tabs here. There we go. Now let's see if this does the same thing. Let's see if it filters this correctly. I'm going to run the code, and we are only left with lowercase alphanumeric characters. So that's good. we have successfully completed step 1 and 2. If you guys are feeling a little efficient and crazy, we could combine these two variables and just write const alphanumeric is equal to string that to lowercase, right? And then after that, just erase all of this. So let me clean this up. We're just chaining all of these methods, and that is allowed in JavaScript. Let me see what I can do. Why don't we just leave them out back here? Not the prettiest thing, but when you're zoomed in like me, it's probably more appropriate. All right, so we got that. I'm not sure why that's not aligning, but whatever, that's good enough. Let's see if we still get the strip version, and I do here, so that's good. Now the only step we have left is check to see if this is a palindrome or not. So this is what I'm gonna do. Let me try my best to show you guys. I'm gonna do a for loop. What I'm gonna try to do is I'm going to compare the beginning character with the last character. For example, let me use I is too short. Let's use, and we're no longer dealing with strings, right? We're dealing with strings, no longer arrays. So let's deal with race car. Okay. I don't know why that's typo. That's not a typo. Okay, whatever. This is what I want to do. I want to make a loop that goes to the middle. I want to compare the beginning one with the end one. And then I want to compare the next one with the previous one, the last one. And then here to here, all the way until we reach the middle. Does that kind of make sense? If at any point one of the characters are mismatched, then we're going to return false because it's not a palindrome. But if all of these are true, we will return true. So the way that we're going to do that is I'm going to assume that it is palindrome. And I'm going to do a loop. Let's do a traditional for loop. We will start at 0. Now the question arises, let me just finish this up. We're going to increment by 1, right? The question arises, where should our maximum be, right? So let's think of an example. For example, if it was 3 characters, an odd number, we want to compare the 0th index with the last index. We don't want to do anything here. We don't want to compare him to anything, right? So the total length of this is 3. What's 3 divided by 2? 1.5. I want to end at the first index, right? So 1.5 flooring 1.5 is 1. So I want to make it less than the length of the whole string divided by 2 and map that floor it. So that works for odd number of characters. Is this even? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, it's not. So how about like A, B, B, A, ABBA. For this one, I want to stop at 0, 1, right? 4 divided by 2, that's 2. Map that floor is still 2. And so we want to go to up to 2, but not including 2. So that still works. Hopefully you guys understood me. Let me write it. Maybe it will make more sense then. So I want to do math.floor. This will floor it to the nearest whole number, lower of the whole numbers. And then I want to get our alphanumeric string. Remember, we stripped this and made it lowercase alphanumeric. That length divided by 2. All right, so let me explain again what's going on. For this case, 3, we did 3 divided by 2, which is 1.5. Math.floor is 1. So I is less than 1, meaning we do 0, yes. 1, no. It no longer satisfies, so we stop the loop. What about for even ones? 4 divided by 2 is 2. Math.floor of 2 is 2. So we do 0, 1, and we don't do 2. So that looks good to me, right? All right, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to check the beginning one with the end one, right? I'm going to say if, and I'm going to check to see if they're not equal. Because the moment we find the first instance in which the first and the last is not equal, we could say return false, right? So we can do this. If, how do we grab the first one? Alphanumeric at index I, that will give you the beginning one. And as we go up the loop, you will start giving the next one, the next one, next one, so on. If this is not equal to, Now we want to get the last one or the equivalent to the last one. So meaning if we were in the second iteration, we want to grab this one. Typically, how do we grab the last index? We typically do alphanumeric dot length. Let's see. I'm gonna put this to the next line. Alphanumeric dot length -1. That would typically give you the last iteration. However, for the next iteration, we want to get the one previous to that, and the best way to do that is just to -i, our iterator. This way, in the beginning, left side of the not equal sign is A, is this one, and the right side is this one, the next one is this one, and then it's this one, and so on. So hopefully that made sense. So if they're not equal, we're gonna just return false. We don't even have to go on the loop anymore. We know this is not a palindrome, so we're just gonna return false. Otherwise, at the very end, if we went through the whole loop and we never return false, then we can safely assume that it is a palindrome. So I could either return is palindrome, but I realize now that this variable is unnecessary. So I'm gonna erase it, and I could just return true here. So what I mean by that is if I got to here, I already know that it's a palindrome because we never had an instance when these two were not equal to each other. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me run the code and see if we get true or false. Now I'm gonna console log the result of whatever we're typing in to let us know whether it's true or false. This is obviously false. Let's try putting race car with some spaces like that, and we get true. So it appears that to work. Let's just try one last one, I. And we get true again. Now let's see if Freecodecamp likes this solution. As always, copy this code here, bring it over here, run the tests, and we pass. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Today, we did the palindrome checker. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Next time we meet, we will do the Roman numeral converter. Now, I highly encourage you guys to try this first before you watch my videos. And if you like my content, please click like and subscribe below if you like things that has to do with coding. I only release coding content here. I release React tutorial videos. I release JavaScript tutorial videos. Whatever that is related to coding, I will release it here. So guys, please stay tuned. I love you guys, and I will see you guys next time. So I was gonna end the video here. However, as I was editing this video, like on the back of my mind, I just thought of some people complaining on the comments saying, oh, there's more efficient ways to do this. And yes, on all my algorithm videos, I'm sure there is always more efficient ways to do this. However, with this one, I will show you guys a bit more efficient way that I will solve this one. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make one loop. And I'm gonna have two indices where I'm keeping track of, the beginning and the end. And I'm gonna increment, if these indices are at the string where it's not alphanumeric, I'm gonna increment it or decrement it for my second index until I get to an alphanumeric character. And then I'm gonna compare. If they're not equal, return false, otherwise keep on comparing. So hopefully that made sense. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna say const the beginning index. I'll make it I and not a const because we're gonna be constantly changing it. Let I is 0, and I'm gonna let j, my second index, be string.length -1, which is at the last index. And I know that I'm gonna be using this a lot, so why don't we just declare the length const length of the string as len, so that we don't always have to write string.length all the time, right? All right, so this is what I'm going to do. Let's do a for loop. For let not a for loop, a while loop. We don't know how many iterations we have to do. And I'm gonna break out of the while loop manually, so I'm just gonna say while true, meaning this will run forever unless we explicitly tell it to break, right? So this is what I'm gonna do. Within this while loop, I'm gonna have another while loop. I'm gonna say while string at index I is not an alphanumeric character, then I'm going to If it is an alphanumeric character, I'm going to increment it until we reach to a point in the string where it is an alphanumeric character. Hopefully that made sense. So while this is not an alphanumeric character, so how do we say that? Let's get our regex back. A to Z, capital A to Z, 0 to 9. While that test of this string, while this is not an alphanumeric character, and I gotta be careful here. I also gotta make sure that we didn't increment it too much to the point where we exceeded the string. While I is less than, how should I do that? Why is I is less than the length of our string, and we have this, then I just want to increment I. And then I'm gonna do another while loop here. While, I'm gonna do the same thing for J. While J is greater than 0 and test. Like so, except for J this time. And then J, decrement J. So we're constantly going, bop, 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 bop. It's hard to show you guys that without using my hands. Until where I is at an index where it is at an alphanumeric character, and J is also at an index where it is an alphanumeric character. Once we have reached that, I will say if, first I'm gonna check to see what if I went further than J, right? Meaning we were comparing this and this, this and this, and for some reason I was on the right side of J. We don't want that happening, right? If I is greater or equal to, even if they're equal, we don't want to be there, right? If I is greater or equal to J, then I'm gonna break out of this. As a matter of fact, if we got there and we never return false, then I know that we're dealing with a palindrome. So I'm just gonna say return true. Otherwise, what should we do? If string at index I, but we want to make it lowercase, because remember we never made anything lowercase here, to lowercase is not equal to string at J to lowercase, then we are going to return false. Otherwise, we keep on this cycle. So if this is not true, what do we want to do now? We also, if they were equal, we don't want to just continue the loop because then we're going to be stuck in the infinite loop. We have to increment and decrement J again. So if this passed, then we have to increment I plus plus and J minus minus. Let's see if that works. So I'm going to try for this easy example. My dog's kind of going crazy in the back, so ignore the noise. I'm sorry about that. And we get true. All right, now let's try race car. Like that, huh? And we still get true. So now this is working. And this is a lot more efficient because each of the methods that we had for previously to get the lowercase version and to filter out, these are all iterations to the entire loop. But this one, we only iterated once, at most to the half of our string. So this is a lot more efficient. So I'm gonna bring this over here, put it into here and see if Freecodecamp likes this, and we pass again. So guys, hopefully you guys enjoy this. I didn't want to do this because it might confuse most of my viewers, but you know, if you guys want to add a challenge, and if this was an interview question, and they might ask you, oh, what if you just want to loop through it once? Can you do it? Well, this is how you would do it. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. Stick around and I will post other videos like this one. Stay tuned.